Alright guys, TacticalRab and today I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome to Toronto, made it here for the major, very exciting stuff, but plenty to dive into today with Dashy revealing that the entire Boston team has been shadow banned or just banned in general from playing 8 with the rest of the pro players. This is likely because of the whole sound equalization drama they've been exploiting even on LAN over the past several weeks, and they are now paying the price. Very much interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Just to mention, yesterday obviously the travel day to Toronto came and went. I know that some of the pros getting into Toronto didn't have the greatest time. Like, a lot of pros mentioned that the customs experience was just terrible for them. I didn't have any. I guess I just got really lucky because I went through customs in about 5 minutes, maybe on the way out. Like, I've looked up some of the reviews for the airport, they're not great in fairness, but Clay was not a happy man, neither was Octane actually. He says, I'm reiterating my hatred for Toronto's airport yet again. This place is hell on earth. So, you know, thankfully everyone made it through. This hotel is like absolutely packed. The pros there, it seems like everyone is staying here in the entire CDL. So that's going to be quite exciting come Sunday night. Also, the OpTic guys, they're out there as well, obviously flying like premium economy or something or other because of rather nice seats they've got here. No Huke for some reason in this image, which I think is kind of funny, so I don't know if he's flying the plane or something, but yeah, Scump and Methods are coming as well, which is, because I remember they were meant to come to Boston to do the watch party in person there, and then they just did it from the headquarters back in Texas because I guess I think there was like travel issues that weekend, not just because the weather in Boston was miserable at like -20, but also there was like a storm in Texas and they couldn't actually get out of there. So I guess this is the first time, apart from the actual Texas event, they're going to be there in person to do the watch party. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And of course, the OpTic team go in as favourites. Quickly on such shows like that, this I thought was a quite remarkable storyline coming out last night from FaZe Rain. Now, how much does FaZe Rain know about all the financial data behind FaZe? I don't know. I think he says that he looked at like 1 month's worth of financials here and took some notes down, so this could vary wildly. But he reckons that the Call of Duty team actually makes FaZe money. Now, it loses money, I would imagine, but it makes them money from the FaZe clan perspective, rather than the fact that it's Atlanta Esports Ventures that we likely imagine will cover the cost involved, such as salaries, etc. So he reckons that FaZe itself makes about 35 grand a month profit from the Call of Duty team, and however they've got that relationship to work is pretty good. Obviously, they're licensing out their name as FaZe to Atlanta Esports Ventures to brand that team as Atlanta FaZe. I guess that's where it's coming from, but doesn't necessarily mean the team is profitable, but that it actually benefits FaZe in this instance. That's one side of it. The other side of it was these images that came out of all of the different teams that FaZe are in, and looking at the flank, he reckons that the flank cost them 33 grand a month, and there was a lot of talk about this because okay, he goes on in a second to say, well, I looked at 1 month's financials, like, no hate to the flank guys. But it's interesting to wonder, like, how much does the flank cost? How much of these costs are kind of covered under Zuma? Because my understanding would have been, or like my expectation was, that Zuma would pay Ben, Aches, and Parasites some money out of his own subscription revenue. So I don't see why that would be like a FaZe cost necessarily, like paying out Ben and co. I'm guessing that happens from Zuma's side rather than from FaZe's side. Maybe not, I don't know. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about these numbers and exactly how much it would cost and how much it should cost. And as Hitch says, production editors, design, travel, 4 shows a week might be lower than I expected, actually. So, okay, fair enough. If you're going to an event every single month, you're paying for all the stuff, fair play. But, like, the level of production on the flank, it's a much leaner show than the OpTic one is, for example. Like, that OpTic watch party takes a lot of manpower and a lot of setup, whereas the flank one is, it's somewhat more scaled down, but it also means it's easier to transport on the roads, and there isn't, like, I was with Gersh yesterday in an Uber back from the airport, the amount of production stuff that they bring, like, it can fit in a relatively reasonably sized case. It's nothing crazy, and they can still obviously do a fantastic show. So, I mean, yeah, they do a lot of shows a week, but I didn't think the production cost would be anything insane, and as JoeDeceives says, if the show spent 33k a month, I wouldn't be hosting and doing stand-up for our live shows, and it's like, yeah, Ben, 33k is your salary, but obviously that's not the case. So yeah, I don't exactly know where you got this figure from, to be honest. I know there's been lots of talk about it, and FaZe Rain came out later and said, just saying the number that was in my video isn't a clear representation of your contributions to FaZe, because I guess his idea was to show that their financials are deeply in the red, which is definitely true, but he wasn't really trying to take away from Zoom or anything. That was only 1 month, every month is different, so wish nothing best for the boy. So that's the kind of conclusion to that saga, but definitely thought it was rather interesting. Let's dive into what some of the OpTic guys have to say, because this weekend is where they're going to hope to not get second again. They've come second twice in a row now. Dashy gives some thoughts on on Ghosty and like his experience and exactly what makes him so good, but also talking about the Boston situation. We know not long ago now, there was all this drama kicking off at the Minnesota Rokkr home series where they played Boston. Boston won the series, but Boston refused to take off the loudness equalization setting. If there's any loudness EQ merchants in the league, people always look at Boston, whether they're actually the best with it or whether they're the worst without it. I'm not really so sure, but they're the ones that seem to love using it the most and refuse to take it off on a LAN setting in front of fans. Now, fundamentally, those 10 points are actually quite big for both parties because now Boston are looking good to make champs. Minnesota Rokkr is still a little bit up in the air, and if the 10 points went the other way, could have been a very different story, to be honest. But apparently the Boston guys have actually got punished for this. We wondered at the time, given the fact that like all the pros disagreed with Boston refusing to take it off, given the fact that it's not allowed on LAN this weekend anyway, so you'd have thought that not using it would have been the correct point to call, but I mean, look, they decided to use it, they gave their reasons, there were many different reasons, such as getting in the heads of the opposition, which apparently worked, a fair play, but you know, you reap what you sow to a certain extent, and now things are coming back around, and the pros are saying, look, we don't want you to come into our 8s lobbies anymore, we'll still scrim you, we're not going to blacklist you from scrims, but if you want to play 8s with the rest of the pros, that's not going to be happening.
How you like Dan as a teammate, bro?
Dude, like, he's fucking comedy, bro. I'm not gonna lie. And he's like,
good,
obviously...
good leader for the age, though, right?
Nah, he is, right now. So I'm actually surprised that, like, he's got, like, all, like, the in-game traits of, like, somebody that's, like, been playing for, like, 8 years. It's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, like, genuinely, like, his in-game IQ is, like, really good. Your guys' expo defenses were insane today. Like, we play it, like...
I mean, same with you guys. Like,
No, dude. With the whack part, bro. Every team we've scrimmed, and I mean, we scrimmed every team recently. No one has played expo defense like you guys or how we do. They just are like they just play different, bro. There's a lot of freebies, no tight setups. People are roaming.
What do you think S&D's next? You wanna go scheme? People play for cash.
Boston's G8 and 8s. All of Boston is G8.
Except Kremp. His headset does not work.
All of Boston. All of Boston.
I don't think his headset works. Oh,
all of Boston.
He actually sounded sad, man. Dude, wait, hold up, bro. Let me see if there's... You think there's 8s going on in
like,
there?
bro, it's only right. It's normal that people get G8, bro. Like, for example, Cell got G8 in IW. Verseem got G8 for, like, 2 years. I'm trying to think of who else got G8, bro. I'm thinking I know there's one more person that... What's this thing? Got G8.
So as Dashy went on to say, this has happened in some form or another before, and it will more than likely happen in some form or another again, with certain pros getting blacklisted, really. I mean, he used the term GAs, but, you know, it's effectively the same thing, right, from these 8 games. So this was the tweet that came out on the 6th of May when Ben said that he'd heard that the players were going to be refusing to turn it off, which is still pretty remarkable to think about. And then after they lost the series, Rokkr, we got tweets like this from Afro: I'll never understand the mindset of some of the pros, Boston, constant complaints about sound EQ, but when it comes to it, nothing gets done. Bunch of absolute freaks. And he went back and forth on obviously Awakening, right, calling him a plum and all that good stuff at the time. So we've seen this type of stuff before, a long time ago. Even Kremp said on Twitter yesterday that, well, you know, if I was in the position like Boston, where I wouldn't even use it against everyone, I'd just use it against certain players to get the mental edge over them, which is a very Kremp thing to do. But look, he mentions all the way back in Infinite Warfare Cellium. This is a screenshot, of course, from the Modern Warfare days. This is some Petrograd behind the bar, but all the way back in Infinite Warfare, Cellium came in. People thought he was keyboarding, people weren't really sure, and he was snaking the absolute living hell out of every single head glitch in the game, especially on that title. So the pros decided, you know what, Cellium, you're not even old enough to compete anyway. We're not letting you play 8. We've had enough of you. You're not making it a fun experience, and you've got to go. In some senses, punishment for the way that he liked to play the game. So Cellium eventually was taken off the blacklist and was allowed back into play 8 with the pros. If you guys don't know what 8s are, effectively, the pros will get in a lobby, they'll choose a couple of captains. I don't know if they do it this way nowadays, but might put a bit of money on the line, even though I'm not sure the CDL technically allow that, but, you know, who cares about that? Pick teams and just play pickup games, basically, with 4 players on a side. They go on all the time nowadays, but in order to get in those lobbies, you've got to be approved, effectively, and then if the bulk of the pros said, no, you're not coming in, then unlucky, you're not coming in, and it can be a pretty good source of practice, right? We've even seen over the last couple of months the likes of Slasher and even Simp getting involved in 8s, and Simp would never play 8s, because he used to think, I think, that it affected his previous tendencies, but obviously with FaZe struggling, more and more players are doing it and putting in more hours in that way than their usual scrim time, and it's pretty good practice in fairness. Okay, it's not ideal practice like actually scrimming with your team, but it's not too far away. He also mentioned Regime, probably guessing was Blast as well, that was banned for a few years. Obviously, even Envoy back in the day when he was keyboarding, I imagine a similar thing happened. So yeah, it's pretty rare that players or teams get blacklisted from scrims because fundamentally, you know, I think that's probably fair game to a certain extent. But even then, certain teams probably don't want to scrim Boston anymore. I can't imagine Minnesota Rokkr are scheduling scrims against Boston because they, well, maybe they are, but they probably don't like him too much after that previous instance. So yeah, apparently the Boston guys are getting blacklisted from 8, which is pretty entertaining stuff. Will it affect any of their play going forward? I don't know. Obviously, LAN is coming up now, and we're going to see how they fare. They play Minnesota Rokkr round 1, which is very spicy for all the reasons we have just described. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Just thought this is kind of funny here. So, well, unfortunate for Parasite, actually. Apparently, he's got some sort of ear infection going on, so hopefully that clears up quickly. Whereas, you know, Eggs' response was pretty entertaining, to be honest. And just one final thing to mention here, because the tweets were coming out about this. This was a later flight than I got, I believe, but I think it was F-Dot, one of the amateur players, was like, he was just getting plastered on the plane. He was having all the little red wine bottles they give you, like getting them all down, and they had to wheelchair him off the plane because the guy could barely walk. So, I mean, great start to the weekend for him. Hopefully he'll play better than he performed on the plane, but very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.